Hi, I'm Trooper Smacka.
Hi, I'm Trooper Wellman,
Please stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at being a state trooper.
and together we can make a difference.
Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with Lieutenant Munoz and Sergeant Pack. Sergeant Pack, thank you very much. Hope for Prisoners.
Yes.
Lieutenant Munoz, Nevada State Police now, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about what we're really passionate about. Lieutenant Munoz, when you were here the last time on Trooper Talk, we talked about the Hope for Prisoners and some of the people that you mentored with and some of them that they're still your friends and that reach out to you and you talk to. Talk to us about why this is very important for you.
So it really hits near and dear to my heart. I've been a cop for 20 years, and the last 2 years being a part of Hope for Prisoners and working with Ashton Pack, it's been really amazing to see the full circle law enforcement. It's one thing to go out, myself and my teams have made a lot of arrests for public safety issues. I've spent a lot of time in narcotics, so we've made a lot of narcotic arrests. And yes, it's a good feeling to get that poison off the roads and out of communities. But the link that's kind of missing that we're filling in here in Las Vegas is what happens to these individuals when they do get released from prison for whatever crimes they committed. They're coming back into our community. And through Hope for Prisoners, we're able to be there hand in hand with them. And through Hope for Prisoners, I've actually worked with individuals that my teams have arrested. They went through the judicial system, went to prison, got out, and I met up with them at Hope for Prisoners. So I'm able to be there with them and guide them through their transition back into society from prison. So it's amazing to be part of law enforcement, to come together with justice-involved individuals and work as a team for a better Las Vegas.
And Sergeant Pack, you do this, and you put your heart and soul into this. And why do you do this?
So before I retired from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, where I spent 23 years in law enforcement, and I retired last summer. And what was really amazing for me was I was turned on to the Hope for Prisoners program because it partners with Metro for the last 8 years of my career. Much of my career was spent, I worked in the counterterrorism world. I was kind of working in the shadows, trying to stop mass violence and terrorism events from occurring here in Las Vegas. So in all reality, and we had a lot of great successes. We also had, unfortunately, our horrific 1 October event here. And so just that career, as I would go through my career, I found myself really looking forward to that one time a month where I got to kind of go in to the session where what we call hopefuls, who are coming through our workshop and kind of mentor these men and women who are coming out of that prison and jail facility. Many of them had been incarcerated for long periods of time, but I saw such a desire in so many of them to truly change their lives. They just didn't know, they just needed direction and a little bit of support. And so I got on board pretty quick. Growing up, I had a father figure in my life who spent 1 year and 1 day in a federal prison in the early 1960s. He had stolen a car. He drove it from one state to another on the East Coast, knucklehead kind of thinking. And when the cops stopped him and arrested him, he wouldn't give up his crew. And the judge threatened him with 1 year and a day, and he says, I'll do my time. I'm not gonna rat my friends out. And then when I came into law enforcement, we have a policy of you can't associate with people of ill repute. And I understood the spirit of that policy, of that rule. I can't hang out with drug dealers and gang members. I'm a police officer now. But here I had this father figure person in my life, this mentor, who helped me after my dad passed away, who kind of helped raise me, and had never been arrested again, had his life completely together and a very successful career. And so I just thought to myself, there's people in our world who have gone through some dark periods. They've gone to jail, they've gone through to a prison facility, and they get out and they never want to reoffend again. They've done their time and their debt to society is truly paid. And so I was really interested, early on when I heard about it, and that's what kind of sparked it for me. But what's amazing about the program for me now is when I retired, I had this very unique opportunity with my now boss, the president and CEO of Hope for Prisoners, John Ponder. And I had developed this friendship with John over the 8 years that I had mentored there on that volunteer basis. And he's like, hey, what do you think about coming on board, your post-law enforcement career and come work as my director of law enforcement engagement? I said, it's a no-brainer for me. I put my other stuff on hold that I had kind of planned, and I came on board in November, and it's such a great program. We're seeing so much success. We have the lowest recidivism rate of any prison reentry program in America. But that's not good enough, as John says. We want a 100% success rate. And the idea behind what I think is so great for the community and why folks can really buy into it is we're really truly changing lives of people who are in the community. When someone gets out of prison here in Southern Nevada, they're not going off to some desolate area. They're working in the stores where you shop. They're attending. They're in the same places that your kids are at, and we have a duty to that, in my opinion, to point them in the direction if they truly want to change their lives and never commit crime again.
And when I reached out to Lieutenant Munoz and I said, okay, how about you come on to the Trooper Talk? And he told me that you were coming. He was very excited.
Yeah, it's my guy right here.
You know
now.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, Lieutenant Munoz, now, you see people at their worst.
Yes, sir.
And so, but then you're able to push someone to be their best. And so one of the things that we talked about when you were here the last time was actually about the father figure and about when they were growing up, right? That, they never had someone to mentor them in the positive direction. And so talk to us about that.
So the hopefuls are so talented. When you get to know them, they have so much inside that's waiting to burst out. But like I said, they haven't had that guidance. So I was going through, I looked forward every month to going through the workshop. It's a week-long workshop for the hopefuls. And that Thursday, the last day, law enforcement comes in. And we come in, there's probably 10 to 15 of us that come in and we give a presentation. And it's a presentation of getting rid of the badge and the gun and having them seeing us for who we are as human beings. And one of the things is, if we're going to ask them to do that, to look past this, we have to look beyond their past. And unfortunately, a lot of these individuals, myself included, grew up kind of fatherless. It's one of those things where we're in the same boat. One of the keys that we try to get across is we're more alike than different. And when we come walking in the room, it's amazing. You can see the hopefuls, their shoulders are up, legs are crossed, they're very closed off. And as we start opening it up and letting our guard down, you can watch the shoulders come down, the feet come out, they're relaxed, and we're just talking as human beings. So I went through that, and I look forward to that every month. I don't miss that. Unless I'm completely out of the state, I cancel meetings, whatever, I'm there. So when the opportunity, I was asked to become a mentor, I jumped on it in a heartbeat, because now I have a chance to actually get involved in someone's lives and guide them, help them. But it's a two-way street, because they're guiding me just as much as I'm guiding them, because they have so much adversity they've dealt with and overcome. I respect that. They have fought to get where they're at, and they're fighting to go forward. So I get just as much out of it personally, and it makes me a better police officer. And as a lieutenant, that allows me to pass that on to those that I work with, especially the younger troops, and show them the full circle law enforcement. So to be able, and I don't want to say I'm necessarily a father figure, but you're kind of that guidance that they've never had in their life. I mean, I'll get calls from my mentees, hey, what do you think about this? I want to buy this, I want to do this. Yeah, that's a great plan, but let's think about this. Let's think 2 or 3 steps ahead instead of that quick impulse decision that they may have made in the past that got them in maybe a little trouble. Let's think down the road where we're going. So it's amazing. I can't even put into words how it feels to be able to guide someone and help them through their life.
And that's the thing that's interesting is when, you talk about, your friends, right? That they really are friends.
They are.
And so you communicate with them on a daily basis. And so it's not just, yeah, I'm just, thank you very much and, goodbye.
No.
That's not what's happening here. You're able to give someone a second chance that maybe no one else would. And in your position, you could very easily just brush that off, right? And just...
It's the biggest honor in the world is when I have a mentee reach out to me for help. Because, rewind to before they started the HOPE program. Do you think in their mind they thought they would call a police officer for help in a time of need?
Right.
You can tell when we come into that workshop, it's the mentality is us against them. And we have some young cops that come into the workshop, They have that mentality. So we break it down for the young cops as well. It's just as important for them to see it that, hey, these are human beings sitting over here. So to be able to go in there and make these connections with them, it's completely life-changing on both sides.
Yeah, and Sergeant Pack, now, with what you did, even though you were in the counterterrorism, you still were a law enforcement officer. You still dealt with bad people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so you could have retired and said, I'm done. I'm going to, go on a fishing boat or, you know what I mean? Go do. And so you have now chosen to be around some of the people that maybe you were going after before, but you're taking that and making it in a positive way. And so the purpose of Trooper Talk is to save one life.
Sure.
And so if we can save one life today by somebody that's watching that says, look, I made a mistake in life, right? But I can at least talk to someone and, someone will listen and help me, right?
Every person that we pull out of what I call the shadow realm, that shadow world where that the world of addiction, that world of crime, that gangster mentality, that kind of that selfish, entitled world, every person we pull out of that is a potential life saved. It's a potential overdose that never occurs. It's potential suicide that never occurs. It's a father and a mother back with their children. I tell these men and women, I go, you think you have to be perfect parents, you have to be present parents. Yes. The kids will look past your shortcomings, as I hope, as we did for our parents. None of us are perfect, but when you're present, that's the most important thing for your kids' lives. That's where your lives are saved, and that's where your interest compounds, in my opinion. And here's the other thing that saves lives, in my opinion. Every person who comes to our program on that law enforcement session, as Trooper Munoz says, as Lieutenant Munoz says, they're tense, they're standoffish, and by the end of it, they're hugging and sometimes with tears in their eyes, yes, embracing law enforcement. And then I've got young cops coming in who may have been what we call in law enforcement voluntold, an hour before, hey, you got to go do this thing. And they're like, what is this stuff? Like, I got stuff to do today. They come in, they don't necessarily want to be there. That's not usually the rule, that's the exception. I go, no problem, man. Just sit here and just watch the magic happen. And usually they don't want to talk, and they're kind of sitting like this. By the end of that 2-hour session, the cops are like, can I say a quick word? Go ahead, stand up. And the change that you see, and what happens is everyone who goes through the program shakes hands, hugs it out with the police. The odds are they're going to come in contact with law enforcement over the course of their lives. We all will be stopped for something, if it's just a speeding ticket or a traffic infraction. But to have a relationship now with a law enforcement officer, to say to them, they can say to themselves, they can pull something out of their brain and go, I remember hugging it out with those police all those years ago in the HOPE program. So when this officer walks up on the car, I'm just going to show him the respect that he or she deserves. And then that makes the police officers safer. Absolutely. I'm all about making cops safe. My dream, we teach them about writing a vivid vision. Where do you see yourself in a year? Positive self predictions, like, hey, I want to see myself succeeding. My vivid vision is 100-year-old police officers drawing retirements, and no more names on the wall, no more law enforcement line of duty deaths. I understand that's probably never going to happen, but that's my vision. And when we can get men and women who come out of prison who have, at a minimum, a distrust, at the most, a hatred of law enforcement, and we can chip away at that generational issue where it's just been so solidified through their shadow world. We pull them out of that, put them on the path. They're employed. They're keeping their brains and minds straight. They're raising their children right. Lives are being saved on both ends, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's all about giving someone a second chance that no one else would. Let's get to some pictures.
Sure.
So Lieutenant Munoz, Mentor of the Year, right? Yeah. And let's look at the person that's over here on the right, okay, that is given a second chance because of what you're doing and what you're doing, Sergeant Pack, with the program. Talk to us about Mentor of the Year.
That, like I said, I've been doing this 20 years, and that is tops. I'm not about awards, but that one was very special to me. And it's not just, like it says, Anthony Munoz Mentor of the Year, But that's every Hope employee, every mentor, everybody that puts time and effort into what's going on. Like I said, this has been the biggest thing in my career for me, is becoming a mentor, because you are truly impacting lives. When we make an arrest on the side of the road and we get 30, 40 pounds of meth or whatever off the road, we know we're keeping it out of the communities, but we don't see the final result. As we're doing this, we can see firsthand the difference we're making in our communities. So this means the world to me right here.
And for people that don't know, with you being a lieutenant, what you do is drug interdiction.
Correct.
Right? So when you see those big things on the side of the road, like, the U-Haul truck full of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was us.
That's you.
Yes, sir.
And so, you are seeing the worst of the worst criminals that, it's not just the guy on the side of the road that is a little bag of something. You know what I mean? And so, it's very important. And when you do this, you volunteer 100%?
Absolutely, 100% volunteer. I'd probably pay them to let me do it.
And so, Sergeant Pack, when you see someone that is a lieutenant for the Nevada State Police, that works all the time, has all these troopers underneath him and everything, and that goes and volunteers as well to be with you. When I saw both of you come in, when you and I were talking before, right, and then Lieutenant Munoz came in, you guys embraced.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to us about that.
Well, first of all, I think it's a testament to the character of Anthony Munoz. So, bravo to him. Not all law enforcement. It's difficult because we get so busy. We have what I call 50 pounds of stuff in the 5-pound bag, and they're not giving us any bigger bags. And so to watch him do what he's done, especially with Mr. Jack here, who's an amazing human being and really doing fantastic. It's awe-inspiring. And I remember the first time he showed up to the Hope for Prisoners law enforcement session, I was still on the job. He and I hit it off immediately. We had this immediate connection, and I'd like to think that I don't want to say shady. We have a history. There's a duality to policing, and there was a time when I was in my 20s where you can't operate like that anymore. Like, those days are over. Mm-hmm. But I was, we're in the mix. We're down we got our hands dirty, to say. Always honoring our oaths and always respecting people at the end. Like, I always, I was really big about, hey, once the handcuffs went on, I was the nicest guy in the world. But I put a lot of, I got into it a lot when I was a young cop. I was a young street cop. And working in the terrorism world, we put a lot of cases on some really bad people. So you're kind of watching that shadow world from a little bit of an elevated view. But those are the cops that I love to come into the program. It's the guys and gals who maybe got their hands slapped by internal affairs, okay, we're not mad at you, don't do that again, otherwise you're going to lose your job. And they go, okay, I want to preserve my career. Uh-huh. And then they start to learn, they start to they're comfortable in their own skin. And that was him. As soon as he walked in, I'm like, this guy is one of those cops. He's a cop's cop, but he also knows, he and I know one thing, we immediately knew about each other, is that we're not going to arrest our way out of drugs, addiction, gang, violence. I always say we're not going to hug our way out of the problem. Uh-huh. An arrest is a tool. It cannot be the only tool in your toolbox. If you only wield the hammer, everything becomes a nail. And so law enforcement is starting to, and I think here in Southern Nevada, between Metro and Nevada State Police, very progressive, very forward-thinking leadership. Hope for Prisoners created this leadership idea with Metro when John Ponder and the undersheriff, who's now running to be sheriff, Kevin McMahill, sat down and came up with this vision of, we have to do things a little bit different because we're not going to arrest our way out of the problem. We're not going to fill our jails and prisons up and throw away the key. Yeah. 95% of people who go to prison, they're not reptiles. They don't breathe venom. They're not scaly. They're human beings, and they're going to get out. Now, there's some people who go to prison who will never get out, and rightfully so. There are people who need to be completely removed from our society because they're such a threat to public safety. But I can promise the people watching that the rate of psychopathy, the rate of sociopathy is not increasing in our birth rates. It's about the same, but our prison rates are increasing astronomically, and it's because we have people who are born into horrific environments, drug addiction issues, lack of parents, no father figures. You can put it all together. It adds up to this pie. Now, there are some people who grow up with all the opportunities in the world and they squander it and they end up going to prison. That's on them. I can tell you right now, the vast majority of people who come through our program, I hear their stories. They're horrifically tragic, but they are really, really wanting to do right. And then I hear cops that come in, some of our cops, who have equally horrific upbringings, like, I can't believe that you made it. One guy goes to prison, one guy becomes law enforcement. I take a lot of these guys in the program who went to prison. If I could have gotten my hooks into them at 10 to 13 years old, put them in an ROTC or a police explorer program, they'd be top-notch soldiers, cops, pilots, Navy SEALs, you name it. They're kind of alpha in that way, and it's like,
I do.
And then I see cops who I'm like, man, that guy could have easily ended up in prison. And so when Munoz walked through the door, I just kind of had that connection with him. Like, I know he'd been there and done that. I know he's a cop's cop, and but he made his rank. He got that rank. But so many people who get ranked, they get comfortable.
Yeah, that's
they get into the ivory tower, and they don't want to. They're like, yeah, whatever. Just like, what do I sign today? And they're just waiting for that retirement to come.
Yes.
That's not the deal with LT here.
Yeah. We had on here on Trooper Talk. We had Lieutenant White on here.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago. You know what I mean? And when Sergeant Smacka got promoted, we were able to go there, and the mentorship at Nevada State Police, from the major all the way down to the captains to the lieutenants, was tremendous. And it was tremendous to watch because you could see the way that they all think. The men and women, it didn't make a difference, you know what I'm saying? And the way they treated everybody's spouses and stuff like this. And so that's why it makes me so excited, to the fact that what you both are doing. Because you both could be doing a lot of other things. And so to know that you do this and that you're putting yourself out there for the benefit of not yourself, but the benefit of someone else is the most tremendous. And so it's really wonderful to be able to sit and watch.
That service to others is kind of the foundation of America, if you really think about it. And then there's a lot of good people out there who want to continue to serve and help. And, like, I tell everyone at Hope for Prisoners, I need two things, money or mentorship, and especially amongst men. We have a huge clientele that unfortunately most of the prisons are filled with men, and I need men in this community who are willing to give an hour a week to sitting down, having a cup of coffee here and there, maybe a FaceTime or a Zoom call, and just making sure that these men put their goals down on paper, and they are progressing towards getting that goal met and where they want to see themselves successful members of society working here in Las Vegas and never reoffending again. And
so, Lieutenant Munoz, you started as the bottom. Now you're up at the top. And so it wasn't easy. And so you had to go through a lot of different things to get to where you're at. And so to be able to do that and share those stories with the Hope for Prisoners, they really appreciate. And on top of which, it's what's going to help change their life for the better, to be a positive member of the community. Again, I come back to people make mistakes. There is no one that is perfect. And so to be able to reach out to a law enforcement officer and say, he's my friend, and I'm having a problem and I don't know what to do. It's really tremendous.
I can speak to what this program means. We were doing actually I was in the mentor class, and I got a call from a hopeful, and he called me and he says, hey, Anthony, hi, I messed up. I need some help. Hey, no problem. Stand by. I'll get a trooper over to you. Get a hold of an inpatient rehab place. Trooper picks him up, drops him off. Without Hope, that doesn't happen, because the traditional law enforcement response, when we get somebody under the influence, the easy way out is to drop them off at jail. The hard thing to do is find that treatment for them. So we facilitate it, and that was when I knew this program. I mean, I always believed in it. That's when I knew, though, this program works. When you have somebody that's addicted to drugs, that's calling the cops when they're high for help, and we are able to provide that help and get them where they need to be. And I can tell you, it was a young troop that I called to pick him up, and he said that was one of the most touching things he's ever done. So that changed, going back to what we're talking about, changing not only the hopefuls, young officers as well. I mean, this is the wave of the future, and I'm so proud to say we do it different in Las Vegas, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We truly do it different here.
Yeah, and let's face it, some people that do drugs, they relapse.
Yeah, it's gonna
You know
happen.
what I mean? Like it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And for us that aren't in that world, we're just very thankful that we're not in that world, that we never got into that world. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And so, but that doesn't mean that we can't help. You know, and so I think it's just wonderful. We could keep talking about this, but I got to get the more pictures. All right, I got a lot of pictures here. All right, so let's start off at the top at this one, and we'll go all the way around. Tell us what we got here.
Well, I mean, you can see when they come up, we both smile. How can you not smile when you see this? That's what this program means.
Okay.
So we got a graduation, top left. Individual graduated, and I remember him. Remember in the workshop, he was talking about his car, the white on white on white. He had this car that he was going to build, and I'm still in touch with him and his wife. And that's part of the Hope program too. It's not just the hopeful; it's the spouse too. It's a family affair. They're not going to succeed on their own. So part of the Hope program is getting their spouses involved as well to get them reintegrated into society. So I'm still in touch with him. And did you think that picture would be taken? Like when he was at his worst, do you think he thought he'd be standing there with me taking that picture? Or do you think when I started my career, I'd be standing there taking that picture? It's magical.
That was
And in police headquarters. That's where we have our
Exactly.
graduation, is at Metro headquarters.
I come back to the fact that you can't judge the book, that that it's what people have inside of them, and people have heart, and so you don't project that picture, but it's really powerful and it does wonderful things.
The next one, that's my dude Jack right there. Actually, I don't think that's not even my mentee. That's my brother. I went up to see him at work. That guy is so talented with automobiles. When he got out, he was looking for a job. And like, what's your passion? Automobiles. Well, what can you do? I can do everything bumper to bumper. And he can. There is so much skill in what he does. So I went up, hung out with him at work for a little bit, and he's out doing it. So much talent. That's Jack at graduation. A lot of the hopefuls have never wore a cap and gown in their life. They've never been recognized for anything.
Okay.
So when that graduation music hits and they come walking in through police headquarters and you have rows of cops on their feet applauding them, you have family members, a lot of them, this is the first time in their life they've ever been celebrated for doing something positive. And it brings tears. You'll see people tearing up as they come. If you get a chance to go to a graduation, it's life-changing to see the graduation, because this is a special moment in their lives.
And so, I come back to the fact that if we provide positive mentorship, somebody doesn't have to do bad things with what they do. You know what I mean? Like you said, he can do everything with a car.
Yeah.
And so like his life is not over.
It's just starting.
So I will never, hopefully never go to that place. Does that make sense? But the thing is that I imagine that people that are in that, they feel that their life could be over once they get out, because nobody's going to respect them anymore. And so to be able to do that, and to be able to look at the smile, I come back to that, and it's just wonderful. You know what I mean? What do we have down here?
That was we had wrapped up a session. So our law enforcement sessions happen on the Thursday of the week, about 2 hours in the morning. And I think this might have been your first one.
That was around the first one.
Yeah, so that's my boss there, John Ponder, in the middle, and John's story is pretty amazing. He went to federal prison for bank robbery and ended up becoming friends with the FBI agent who arrested him, and he kept in touch with the federal judge who didn't sentence him, didn't over-sentence him, put, hey, you're going to be held accountable for your actions, but I'm not going to destroy your entire life. And John's a pastor and a preacher, and he turned his whole life around inside of the prison and started telling the guys in there, like, I'm going to create a program so that when we get out, there's ways to be successful. And he has just put vision to reality, over the last decade. And so this is one of the sessions there that we had, and I think that's me over there in the corner there.
And so again, people putting themselves out there and making sure that others succeed who could be doing anything else. They don't have to be here. And so I just think that it's absolutely wonderful that we are doing everything we can to make sure that everybody succeeds. You know,
Absolutely.
and so unfortunately, you know, as you both know, you know that maybe there's some people who don't want that,
Right.
but the important thing is the ones that do, you reach out to them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where they have to want to be a part of this program.
Right.
As much as in our hearts we want them to succeed, ultimately they have to want it. And when they want it, they have, by going through the HOPE program, they have the greatest support system there is. They will never be alone unless they choose to be alone. If they want that help, they're a phone call away from whatever resource they need.
And so here's my question. So if someone is now in prison, right, because one of the things that is really cool, because this airs on Channel 13, is that the jails do play Channel 13.
Yes.
Okay. So someone is in jail or prison or something of this nature, right? Is like, I know you can make phone calls, right? Is there a way to reach out to the Hope for Prisoners? Like, how does somebody do it while they're in jail?
Sure. So we serve all people, not just people in jails and prison. I've had young guys come through the program who just been arrested 3 and 4 times and knew they needed to get something different going in their lives. And so, you know, people can always come to our website, hopeforprisoners.org. And inside of the jails and prisons, we, like at CCDC, we have our own unit. Like we have an entire Hope for Prisoners unit staffed by corrections officers who are program managers. They're part of bringing in these programs. We have our own unit out at the Overflow Complex out by North Nellis Air Force Base.
Okay.
So anyone in CCDC who's interested in coming through the program, just send up a kite to one of your COs and let them know, hey, I want to know more information about Hope for Prisoners. And there's several corrections officers who can get them the information. Anybody in the local Southern Nevada prisons, High Desert, Casa Grande, we have a very good working relationship with our Department of Correction folks. Anyone who's interested. They hear rumors that they hear like there's an 18-month program. And I said, listen, we will offer you up in 18 months of aftercare, but if you go through just the workshop and you decide that you don't want to do any more, then you're not worse for wear. It's like going to the gym. You know, you're never going to you're never leaving the gym going, I shouldn't have done that. That was a waste of time. You're going to get something out of our workshop. We like to try to get folks to stay 18 months later, where that mentoring, having that case manager, that's kind of that after follow-up care where we start to kind of change the way they see themselves, change the heart, rewire how their brains are seeing themselves in society. But it's not, you know, nothing here is written in stone. So anybody can, who's outside of outside of prison, they can go to our website. We can send a form to them where they're at in prison. They just have to ask, you know, usually the corrections officers can get them the information that they need. Just ask for it.
At the end of the day, when someone is there, maybe they're scared. You know, I mean, like maybe they don't know who to talk to. Maybe they don't know, you know, that this is their first time in prison or something. You know, they made a mistake. And so I want to be able to give every resource that they would have to, you know. And so if somebody got a hold of Nevada State Police or something, they could at least get a hold of you or something like that if they couldn't do that as well.
And absolutely. Right? And what I would do is I would direct them to Division of Parole and Probation, who works with Hope as well. And we actually have, like so I was talking about in the CASA program, they're still incarcerated, but we actually get some of them through the program before they're released.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say.
So they're coming out ahead of the ball game. They've already been through the program, they've graduated, so they can hit the ground running. And it's so cool to see them and watch them work up to their release date. They've already been through Hope. We've already established a relationship. And when they get out, they have jobs lined up. They hit the ground running. And that's the key. They're not coming out trying to figure out a plan. They're coming out with a plan, and they're hitting the ground running.
And if they don't want to go through the program, just come by when you get out. And like John says, we just love up on people. Like, you know, we might not be able to get you the $30 an hour job because you have to understand you have to go through this there's a process. You have to trust the process. But I've had guys walk in who just need to get a cup of coffee and chat with somebody, and I'll point them in a direction of hey, if you don't want to go through the program, we're not mad at you, but here's what, you know, you need some counseling, you have some PTSD issues. Nobody comes out of prison without PTSD. I tell them it's one of the things we share in common. No one does 20 plus years in the police world or in prison without having your head on a swivel, you know, for 10 hours a day, and for them 24 hours a day.
Right.
So, you know, we'll point them in the direction, and ultimately we've had people come in and they've gone through the program a couple times. It's not, re-entry and getting to sobriety isn't a straight line. It's kind of a zigzag, like a Pollock painting. It's all over the place. And so, but eventually we want to get them to that sober, happy with themselves, living the fullest potential life with what we have left. And that's what I really stress to folks is, you're born in the year you're born and then the year you die, you hope there's about 100 years there. And you got that dash in the middle. We really want to fill that dash up with as much as you can possibly get. And spending 1 second in a custodial environment, under arrest, dealing with cops, that is not the way to do it.
And it starts just with a phone call.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so or an email or, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Something like that. So anybody who's watching right now, start with something.
Yes.
Like you said, even if you don't want to go through the whole thing or what, just start with
Yes.
something.
Just Google Hope for Prisoners.
Hope for Prisoners.
Yes,
You know
check
what I mean?
out what we offer. If we can't help you, no problem. We'll point you in a direction where you may be able to get something going.
Yeah.
Again, more graduation photos, and the smiles in there say it all. I mean, you really do got to get to a graduation, sir, and check it out.
And I'm going to. And let me say this to you, okay? Not that we ever want to judge anybody, but, when you look at them, they look normal.
Yeah.
You know what
They're
I'm
graduating.
saying? And so, we can't just judge someone because they have tattoos or they have these type of things.
Yeah.
We have to look at somebody's heart.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I just think it's great. And I do. I look at the big smiles on their faces hugging law enforcement officers. And so they would always be on the opposite sides.
Yes.
And so now that's not the case.
And it's nice too because at headquarters now their families come in and the families are sometimes nervous, like we're going to the police station. Well, no one's checking IDs. Come on in.
Right.
We're celebrating your loved one right
Right.
now. We
Yes.
have all the pomp and circumstance. We have our honor guard come and fly our flag. We say the Pledge of Allegiance. We sing the national anthem. We want them to see themselves as productive American citizens. That's why we do it this way. We stuff the room full of as many cops as I can
Yeah.
get my hands on. And that's not always easy on a Friday night in Las Vegas, especially when EDC or some major event's happening, which seems to be every weekend now.
Yeah.
But I consistently get cops who show up. They're like, I'm on my way to this thing, but I'm here for now. I'm like, awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think that it's wonderful, and we want to keep telling people about this wonderful program. And we're going to go.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next. We're going to take Trooper Talk on the road, and we're going to go do this.
And graduations are open to the public. Anybody can come by to those.
It's life-changing.
Life changing. You know what I mean?
check out our website.
Maybe somebody just wants to come and just say thank you very much for everybody.
Yes.
How many people typically graduate?
We usually put about 25 to 30 people through a session.
And how often do you graduate?
We generally go one session a month. This coming June, we're going to do a little bit out of the box and do three.
Three graduations.
Well, 3 sessions with one
sessions.
giant graduation.
All right, let's talk
Yeah.
about this one.
So the top left picture is a gentleman named Mr. Brewster. He's kind of based out of the Dallas area. He did time in jail and prison, and he got out, and he basically owns a multi-million-dollar trucking company, and he's just living the greatest life in the world. He's got more money than Davy Crockett, and that's our Huddle in the Park event that we had at Lorenzi Park just a couple months ago, where we usually do these Tuesday night huddles, and COVID put them on like Zoom online. We're trying to get back to the in-person one. We're in our new facility, our new location at Rancho and 95. We're going to have plenty of room and all the audio visual equipment to come bring 100 people into our Tuesday night huddle. And the idea behind the huddle is your weekly message from somebody faith-based related, police, leadership, anything that people can get some value out of to keep their week kind of in check and keep their vision straight. And so that was our Huddle in the Park. We do a couple of those a year over at Lorenzi Park, where we'll have the bounce houses and the barbecue, and we'll just hang out and talk and have just an amazing ability to sit and talk and chat with one another. And then we had a job fair. This is our new location here, this larger picture, and we had a job fair, and I always like to have the police just represented. I had Metro. These are the Bolden Area Command community-oriented policing team, and I actually got to train this officer here back when I was a field training officer, sergeant.
Oh.
You know, when I was running the team of young cops,
Yeah.
teaching the academy graduates, and just to watch them kind of come full circle in their careers, and now they've got that time on that where they're doing a little bit more outreach and community engagement. So we have them there at the job fair. Just, you know, good engagement, having police officers in the room, and people have questions. They feel comfortable to come and see the human being behind that badge and that
Yes.
uniform.
And Lieutenant Munoz, you know, here's a perfect example. This gentleman right here was on the opposite side of the law, right? So if no one cared, maybe he would have went the opposite way and gone back to prison.
Yeah, it's very easy.
You know what I mean? Like, and so you don't know. And so the changing of someone's life brings a smile to your face.
It does. It's like I said, I go back to it's once we can get in this workshop and we let our guard down, it makes it easier for the hopefuls to let their guards down. And like Ash was saying, we've had cops get up in the room, cops I've worked with for 15 years, and they get up and give their life story. And we're close with these troopers or even Metro officers, and I'm hearing things that I didn't know about them. And I've known these 10, 15 years. There's a gentleman that works for Metro that I grew up with, played high school sports with. He told his story, and my jaw is on the ground because I didn't know any of this. And when we start talking about it, it's because there's a comfort in that room. We're not going to be judged. A lot of cops feel like they'll be judged by other cops, where when we get in this setting here, they're not going to be judged because these individuals have been through what they've been through. So it's really a time where, and like I said, about halfway through, everyone's guard comes down, and we have open and honest discussions.
And, you know, when it comes to our childhoods of growing up, you know, some people had great childhoods, some people had fathers, some people didn't have fathers. You know, the thing is that it's sometimes very difficult to talk about. You know, even like you said, even with your best friend who knows you for all these years, you know what I mean? And so to be able to open up and share, it really makes it very, very special. And so, you know, to be able to do that makes it that much better, right?
Absolutely. It's you walk out of there, you never walk out of a workshop thinking, wow, what did I do that last 2 hours? You walk out of there motivated to change the world.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's great. One of the ways that someone will go to jail and unfortunately have to be a hope for prisoner, right, which is something that you deal with on a daily basis, is people that decide that they want to be DUI.
So let me explain something that we lost Trooper May last year. So we're going through a workshop probably about 6 months ago. And we finished the workshop, and one of the hopefuls raises his hand. And he stands up, he goes, I have to get this off my chest. He goes, Trooper May arrested me for my 3rd felony DUI, and I went to prison. And it changed my life because it woke me up. And he wanted to let us know, and he started tearing up. We started tearing up. He goes to Trooper May's gravesite once a month and leaves flowers on his gravesite. And he asked if that was okay. Absolutely, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what this program's about. Micah arrested him and sent him to prison, but he was so professional in the way he treated him, and it changed his life. He's now sober. This individual loves baseball. I love baseball. We talk baseball. It's brought us together. But he goes to the trooper that sent him to prison and leaves flowers on his gravesite every month.
And this is the type of thing that brings tears to your eyes, and this is the type of thing that nobody hears.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of that process when they come through our workshop. You know, a lot of them come in dealing with addiction and controlled substance issues. And oftentimes it's like, well, I just want a job. I just need a job. And I'll look at them and very kindly, but very firmly, I'll say, if just a job was the issue, you would have never landed in prison. We're not just a job placement organization. Yes. We want to rewire your brain. We want to change how you see the world and your place in it. And so to go from a person who was arrested by a highway patrol trooper who was in a line of duty death, killed in the line of duty, to now have that person go and leave flowers at their grave is a testament, I think, to the program and the relationships that we're building.
and you know, we can get into the emotional part about Trooper May, and what we feel, and you know, our condolences, and you know, for his family and things like that. But you know, we'll never be able to know everything that person went through when it came to the DUI.
Absolutely.
What they were dealing with before, you know what I mean? And the trauma. You know, like we talk on the Trooper Talk, it's not very comfortable in the back of your patrol car.
Yeah.
Because we want to show people that you don't want to be there, but if you do, then the troopers will treat you with respect.
Those days are long gone of what you had spoken about, just throwing someone in the back of the car. That ship has sailed. We're going in a completely different direction. We have to be there now. I mean, you look at mental health, you look at trauma. You brought up trauma. That's huge. How much trauma do you think these individuals, these hopefuls, have gone through growing up that was never dealt with? So part of the thing is getting them in to see counselors and actually dealing with that trauma. Yeah, a job's great, and they do get well-paying jobs, those that put the effort in, but we have to get to the root of the problems, and that's one of the things that Hope is amazing at.
Yeah, and being able to talk, you know, and I come back to the fact that I think that, you know, a lot of the hopefuls, right, are probably closed. They were always told, don't talk. And so to be able to do that.
We're not, especially amongst men in America, we're not taught how to be vulnerable. Yeah. And so it's very difficult for, you know, as paramilitary organizations, law enforcement being that, former soldiers, you know, you don't show emotion. You check that because you're dealing with a mission. You have people's lives at stake. And I think it's the same thing for folks who are in prison. I always say, you know, show of hands, who got to be vulnerable in prison, and I'm still to see a hand go up. It's the same thing when you're a young police officer. You can't show vulnerability. You have to suck it up, buttercup, and carry on, and it doesn't matter that the traffic accident with the child in the car seat that didn't survive and that horrific experience, and then you just start to add that over the course of a career. And so our law enforcement officers, all of a sudden you blink 23 years later, I'm like, why am I in therapy? Because I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have issues that I have to work through. Now I look at it as an injury, a post-traumatic stress injury, and you can fix injuries. You know, you break your arm, you put the cast on, 6 weeks later, bone's stronger than it was before it broke. I believe the same thing for the mind, but we have to start to address these public health issues, mental health issues. That is the key, in my opinion, to really reducing crime and violence in our society is mental health issues.
And just as you said that, you know what I was thinking about? That being in the law enforcement, you know, Trooper Wellman always says that, you know, you're 85, where the normal person sees 3 traumatic experiences, you know, you see 85. That something you said as well in the beginning, which is with you talking to them, that you're helping yourself.
Absolutely. I've gotten things out speaking at workshops or speaking with my mentees that I fostered that nobody knew about, like I talked about earlier, and it feels good. I mean, everybody, whether it's a crime you commit or something, you want to get stuff off your chest. You feel better. I mean, going back to when you were a little kid, you knew you messed up and you told your mom what you did.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But you felt better because it was off your chest. It's no different as we grow up. We have things we just want to get off our chest, and we want problems dealt with. I want things fixed from my past. But you have to find, until you find that sweet spot where you can get comfortable and you can open up, it's not going to happen. So we try to provide that safe space and that sweet spot so people can open up. And law enforcement, we open up as well. And it's just as therapeutic for us.
And not be judged, right?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you can open up and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you did these bad things? Yeah, I'm taking you back. Yeah. And so that's got to be a very positive thing that, you know, they're able to, just as you are as well.
Well, it comes back to, like, we're more alike than different at the end of the day. We're more alike than different.
And there's an absolute cathartic nature to the sessions where I've seen some of our cops come in, and you can really see how much it means to them. I think of Tiffany.
Yes.
You know, how amazing her story is, especially to the ladies that are in that room, you know, because the vast majority of our clients are men. But a few are women, and to bring our female mentors in, female law enforcement, because they have a perspective that's different from how the men see it, and so it's really there's a cathartic nature to that.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to see when we go to the graduation. Very
Absolutely,
excited.
yes.
You know what that means?
I think we're done.
That means it's over.
Awesome.
See, you got through it. You know what I'm saying?
We did.
All right. Let's go over a couple things before we end, okay? I want to repeat that where someone can get a hold of Hope for Prisoners, go over all the information about the jails again, you know what I mean, and all that type of stuff, so we make sure that that's on there at the end. So go ahead and tell us all about that.
So first and foremost, anyone who has any questions, wants to shoot me an email, it's very simple. My email is Ashton, ASHTON, @hopeforprisoners.org. If you go to our website, hopeforprisoners.org, if you Google Hope for Prisoners, you will find our website and our phone number. So there's a myriad of ways to find the website online. If you are in county jail, Clark County Detention Center, talk to one of your corrections officers in the pod that you're in, and you can get information on Hope for Prisoners. We have an actual wing, a whole section of the jail that's the Hope for Prisoners unit. But we can get them information, and they might not qualify. They might be in just an arrest status, pending a release soon. They get out, they want to change their lives. Our location, we've moved our location. We're now at 333 North Rancho. It's the old city development building. It's the 9-story building, northwest corner of Rancho and the 95. Show up there, second floor, 8 a.m., 8:30 is when we open, but people get there at 8 and hang out in the lobby and have a drink of water or a coffee.
And so with no judgment whatsoever, you'll talk to somebody, you'll figure out the best, what they can do. And again,
Sure.
If they don't want to do the entire program, at least they can start with something of a talking, right?
What I encourage everyone to do, if you come by our new location, we have a team of case managers, and this is their subject matter expertise. I have program managers that we can sit and talk. I'll come out and talk with folks. We have an amazing computer lab. We're partnering with CSN, Community College of Southern Nevada, the community college. They're going to have a satellite campus. John's going to build a church for Sunday, but also a leadership academy where we can have training. We're going to put a library and a family reunification center inside of our new location. Our new location has a very collegiate-like feel,
Yes.
and I really highly encourage folks to come by. Just come by and check it out for nothing else. If you have a family member who is dealing their criminal justice impacted world, they are living in the shadow world, you're trying to get them some help, give us a call, Google Hope for Prisoners, shoot us an email, come by our location, we will point you in the direction if we can't do it ourselves. There is no reason anybody in Southern Nevada can be getting out of a jail or prison with the resources that we can provide them and not make it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You should be able to find success in your life, but we always say we want you to want it more than we want it for you. You have to want to change.
And that is what we want to talk about, Lieutenant Munoz. They have to want it.
Absolutely.
But if they want it, you give them 110%.
They have my all. There's no better feeling. I would much rather spend time doing this than working in an investigation. This is productive members of society, and we talked about, we have to be on the same team because, like Ash was saying, we go to school in the same places, we shop, or the kids go to school in the same places, we shop in the same places, they're on the same sports teams, our kids. We are Vegas strong. We have to work together and be a teammate. And when we start the workshop and I say we have to be on the same team, the looks are kind of, I ain't be on your team. You got the badge on, I don't want to be on your team. But at the end, we got to be on the same team. And I do want to take a second to thank you, Ash.
Thank you.
For being that mentor that inspires me.
With you saying that, and I know I said it before, but, it meant so much to him that you came here.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't just Lieutenant Munoz and we were just having a conversation. Like, he really wanted you to be here. And one thing that's very important, okay, is that I always say you can feel from the television. And most people say, no, because the television is two-dimensional. Mm-hmm. When you look into somebody's eyes, you can feel if you open yourself up. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that was done here today. And so we did change somebody's life. Maybe we don't know that person. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're going to contact that person. Maybe that person's going to contact you soon and say, I saw it on there. But you're doing a wonderful thing, and you're doing a wonderful thing. And so I always say on the Trooper Talk, everybody loves you. And everybody supports you, and maybe you have a few people that don't, but know that everybody is behind what you're doing. So we appreciate both of you gentlemen coming on here. Thank you so much. Okay?
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll face this camera right here, and we'll just give everybody a big wave and say, see you soon.
See you
See you
soon.
soon.